It just does show how important this is, and the rain has held off, and I'm going to try and stick to the 5 minutes that we're all instructed to, because I realise you'll all be getting sunburnt. Yeah. Farming has a long and proud history. Farming on the West Coast has a long and proud history. Hang on a minute, get this right. Which reaches back over 150 years for European settlers and beyond for our local iwi. I'm a 5th generation farming West Coaster, and now I'll also have the 7th generation crop on the ground here through my grandson. Members of my own family still farm south of the glaciers and have done so since arriving as pioneers around 150 years ago. Our own farm at Rodamanu has been an Ian's family for over 101 years. Our beautiful West Coast home is the jewel in the crown of Aotearoa. It is promoted around the world as one of the must-see draw cards that entice tourists here. A key part of the vistas are our stunning emerald green pastures set against the rugged backdrop of thick native bush, wild rivers, tranquil lakes and lagoons, and the magnificent Southern Alps, or as we know it, untamed natural wilderness. It is actually the farming of animals which has enabled tourism to exist and grow here, as the roads that traverse the valleys were originally put in as the pioneers searched for productive land to farm after the gold had been discovered. The alluvial flats they found were fertile, as nutrients and minerals had washed out of the Alps and bush eroded and deposited as silts, which could grow anything the temperature and the rainfall would allow. This saw the arrival of strong beef production and then dairy production, as the coal allowed for the mechanisation of milking through coal-fired steam engines to create vacuum for the milking machines, as there was no electricity. There were many small dairy companies up and down the coast. Farmers ran pigs as well to drink the skim milk, and the cream was taken by horse and cart to a pickup point daily and would go on to become butter. As more automation came, so did consolidation, until all milk was going to Westland Dairy, which is now Westland Milk Products. Now butter, infant formula, caseinates and specialist milk powders are made in Hokitika and go all over the world, and over 300 products can be made from raw milk. With around 500 people directly employed at the dairy company and 50 million kilograms of West Coast milk solids being processed there, there is $350 million injected out into the farming community, which supports many other businesses as well as the farms. Then, of course, there are the wages and the direct services sourced by the company from locals, which puts more than another 100 million, closer to 200 million, straight into our local economy. It is truly milk that makes a big proportion of the West Coast lifeblood. For beef, we now have 2 processing plants, making them another critical employer for the coast. Ansco at Kokeri and Silver Ferns down at Hokitika not only take local stock, but also stock from other areas to help make all plants run as efficiently as possible. That's more than another $30 million in meat value and the wages on top for the region. Then there's also deer, and there's a whole lot of other horticultural things that go on as well. There are the servicing businesses who supply the goods we use on farm and cart the fertilisers, etc. to get the feed to grow. New Zealand farmers are the most efficient in the world per kilogram of milk of product produced, and here we are no exception, except we have an even better environmental footprint than the rest of our brothers and sisters around the country. Our challenges of weather are sometimes a little tougher, but we have adapted better than anywhere to farming with nature. This is key to our future as the pressure comes on. Letting us figure out the best way to do this will give the best result as we work in our local environment each day. We have a proven track record of making improvements where necessary and can do so without having heavy-handed regulation imposed upon us. A turn of phrase that is often used to describe New Zealand is God's own. It was Camara's own Prime Minister, Richard Seddon, King Dick, who reportedly wrote this before he set sail home as he was to return to God's own land from a visit to Australia. He knew the value of primary industries and promoted their development vigorously. He died on that journey home while he was still Prime Minister. Let's hope that current and future politicians enable us to thrive here by letting us be in charge of our own destinies. All our economic champions need to be firing on all cylinders. The implementation of legislation that has been guided and developed by true local input is the only way forward that takes communities with governments. All regions in New Zealand are so different to each other. What works well in Auckland, Wellington, Southland or Canterbury will not bring the best outcomes for us here in what is truly the place that represents those words of God's own. The West Coast, where we farm fantastic.
Yay!